Brief introduction. So my name is Abnika and allow me to introduce myself in third person. So Abnika is an author and multifaceted storyteller dabbling across digital content curation, literary writing and performance poetry. She's been published by the digital storytelling publications, Berlin Art Parasites and Thought Catalog, based in Germany and New York respectively, with a readership of 3 million across geographies. Her work has also been featured by Terribly Tiny Tales and The Scribble Stories. She was shortlisted as the youngest independent journalist at the age of 19 to cover the Z Jaipur Literature Festival. Her speaking engagements include The Education Tree, Commune, Slam Out Loud, Youth for Peace International, and others. She was shortlisted to perform at India's first ever National Youth Poetry Slam in 2016, performing alongside Sara K, Phil K, and Kalki Kochner. She's also been a speaker for over 70 literary events and was featured as one of India's leading female slam poets by She the People TV. She's worked with autistic children, victims of substance abuse and homelessness, and women inmates at Tihar Jail. Now I am very excited to introduce to you our speakers, Sanjay Chandra ji. Born in 1959, Sanjay has a storyteller within him. Every communication in his life is a story in itself. Sanjay sees stories all around him. Writing has become a passion and he's finally become a storyteller. He writes blogs on socially relevant issues under the pseudonym Musings of a Pioneer. He's also written a lot of poems, short stories, and hopes to compile and publish them someday. His short story, The Surgeon, was a winning entry in a Write contest and has been published in an anthology, The Little White Book of Stories. He's also a traveler, an avid book lover, and an amateur photographer. Sanjay conducts talks and workshops in colleges and corporates to inculcate reading and writing as a habit. Devendra Gauttam is a bilingual author who has written lots of sonnets, free verses, and stories. His sonnets have been published in various anthologies. Originally hailing from Rajasthan, his book, The English Teacher, sheds light on his own experiences, grappling the life of being a teacher as well as a writer. Pranay Patil is a dreamer, an engineer, a scribbler, farmer, social activist, and author of a contemporary romance supernatural novel, The Burgundy Winters. As an award-winning social worker educated in Germany, Pranay spent the last decade on a hill in rural India, where he helps the undeserved get justice. Between studying engineering in Germany, traveling extensively around Europe, and sharing stories of his adventures with friends, his mind refused to detach from certain places and memories. His only escape then was to write it all down in a leather-bound journal, which ultimately became The Burgundy Winters. Very excited to welcome all our speakers here today, and now I will straight away get into our session. So as the name of the session suggests, When the Muse Bites, we'll be talking a lot today about what the muse is, how it inspires the artist, and what role it has to play in the craft of writing. And before I get into our questions and learning more about everyone's story here, I would like to read a little something on the muse and what it actually means to an artist. So one of my favorite quotes on the muse is by Stephen Pressfield, who's authored in book The War of Art, Winning the Inner Creative Battle. So it goes like this. This is the other secret that real artists know and wannabe artists don't. When we sit down each day and do our work, power concentrates around us. The muse takes note of our dedication. She approves. We've earned favor in her sight. When we sit down and work, we become like a magnetized rod that attracts iron fillings. Ideas come and insights accrete. Now, another one that I have is my personal favorite, which says, for far too many centuries, women have been muses to artists. I wanted to be the muse. I wanted to be the wife of the artist. But what I was really trying to do was avoid the final issue, that I had to do the job myself. So, so I think that is what, I mean, there are various facets the muse undertakes in an artist's life, and it is often, that space that gives you both the idea, the freedom, and kind of leads you on when, you are stuck with a scene or you are stuck with an idea. So, I would like to ask, so as you would know, Devendra has written the book, The English Teacher, which is a story which is a story of this young aspirational person who wants to be a writer, but at the same time there are a set of personal circumstances which make him take up a government job as an English teacher. And Pranay sir has written a book, The Burgundy Winters, which is closely inspired by his own travels in Europe and which tells the story of a rock star, Jay Stanner, who deals with addiction and also has an extremely thriving career as a rock star. And Sanjay sir has written the book The Gymnast, which is a story of Roshni, who born in a sort of poor family, aspires to, has dreams of becoming a world-class athlete. So I would like to start, if by asking you all about, what was that respective moment in time, or that, that idea, that moment that led you to say that, okay, this is going to be my, this is the story that I would like to tell. Please, tell us about that.
Thank you, Avni. The news behind my book was no other than my own inner voice or the power of my spirit, which pushes me, which forced me to pen down my feelings, I struggled a lot. I faced many ups and downs to achieve my dreams. I left no stone unturned there. So after getting success, I found a new version of myself and I decided to write my own story and to motivate all the unemployed youngsters who are struggling to achieve their dream. It was the motto, it was the muse behind my story.
Thank you, Devendra. Pranay?
Basically, ma'am, I started writing my thing during COVID, my book, and when I started writing my book, the first thing I decided, because before writing the book, I was into charity and social service and all. And during COVID, people younger than me were passing away. And suppose there's a contact in the phone, and I just dialed it. And then I used to realize, oh shit, that person's no more. And that feeling was terrible. I started to slip into depression. So then, before writing the book, I decided that all my profits will go to charity to help people in rural areas, rural India. So then, as I started writing the book, paragraph by paragraph, line by line, sentence by sentence, I started feeling better. And by the time I was done writing the book, I shot out of my depression. I was a completely new person. So I'll say the book was cathartic for me, and the book saved my life.
That's lovely to know, Pranay.
So, Abnika, I hope I got your name right this time.
That's right.
Okay. So, the muse or the inspirations behind my stories have been people around me. In fact, the first book that I wrote, this was The Life and Times of a Common Man. And that was sometime in 2019, it was published in 2019. And I was sitting in a panel discussion there in the Maidan Literature Festival. Now the moderator there, herself an accomplished author, and was another author. So she sat with the two of us and she said, she asked our life story. and once you listen to the life stories, the other author story was more of a rags to riches kind of a story, came from a rural background, but I was from the middle class. And he said, okay, so your story is not all that glamorous. And I said, yeah, it's not all that glamorous, because since I'm from the middle class. But then I realized that, every child has a dream within himself or herself. And my life, what it projected was that you should always keep the dream live within yourself. You may not be able to achieve that dream right then and there, but you will always get an opportunity to attain that dream, or to at least try to work towards that dream. So that was my muse. I was my own muse. The people around me, the middle class around me, was my muse. Now around that time, we had, all of you would have seen these street performers by the roadside. And these little children, they're doing cartwheels and doing different singing, dancing, etc. I realized that these children have immense talent. What is needed to nurture their dreams is someone who can just hold their hands and take them forward. So for my second book, The Gymnast, The Roshni, it is these children who became my muse. And so I would say that, as you will read my introduction, that there are stories all around us. I say that there are stories all around us, there are people all around us, and each person's life is a story in itself. And so that is what I try to bring out in my stories, in my books.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. No, I think it's actually, there's a common binding thread that even I noticed, in the process of understanding more about all of you. I mean, other than the fact that all of you have written contemporary fiction books, there is this, there's a strong thread of, the characters, going through their own hero's journey, where they have a set of circumstances that they cannot break through, and then there is that moment where they sort of get close to the glass ceiling,
Exactly.
and then they, crack it open, which I saw in all of your stories. Sanjay sir, from the struggles of the middle class, like it's commonly said that how, either you have to be really poor or really rich to get, to get any kind of limelight.
Yeah.
Right. And I think same way even Pranay, in your story, these are, these two extremes. I'm sure all of us have, seen the movie Rockstar. Like personally, when I was, I was in college, I saw the movie, and I think there is this whole, that feeling where you somewhere feel that, oh, this probably is really bad, you should stay away from it, but you were equally attracted to it and enamored by it, and there's a part of you that probably wants to, I don't know, maybe even make it a part of your life. And I think Devendra, your story is something that I feel that all writers kind of really struggle with. There is that whole thing of what will be financially, economically, socially viable, and what is it that you desire to do. Right? So I think I want to understand more from you in terms of the protagonist, that this entire journey that they undertake, this hero's journey. How closely did your life inform it, and was there a particular reason you wanted to pick these these specific circumstances for your for these protagonists?
Yes, ma'am. As we all know, we all have our own characters. I should say that every writer has its own character. It reflects his own character. There is a saying, if you want to know any author, go and read his books. That applies here. I wrote the book, I made the character unforgettable. The character is immortal. There is a film production house, Katara Films, who has many times approached to me and asked me to make a film because the real life struggle stories inspires people.
completely agree with that. Very much comes out in the English patient. Pranay, tell us more about the protagonist Jace, Daniel.
Yes, ma'am. Basically, the protagonist, basically the main characters are Jace Tanner and Yasmin Belmont. And Jace is into drugs and like cocaine and all sorts of things. He and his friends, and he's reached the heights of his stardom. And suddenly, his best friend Aiden dies of an overdose. This happens in the first chapter. So then Jace gets guilty. Reality hits him hard, and his sister Pearl. First he goes to rehab. He comes out. Then his sister Pearl decides to take him around Europe. So he feels better about himself, etc. And once he's in Europe, he finds this tour guide in Paris, Yasmin Belmont. He falls in love with her, and both have lots and lots of secrets that they share with each other, and how she helps him get out of his problems, and how he helps her get out of her problems. And basically, it's a love story. There's a bit of a paranormal element. Certain parts that would normally take another 100 pages for me to write down. I just added a paranormal aspect, so I finished it in 10 pages, that sort of a thing. Sometimes, and I used to get a writer's block sometimes, so I used to do. So the thing about writer's block is whenever I used to get it, I used to write a parallel storyline. So basically by the end of it, I had 2 storylines. Yeah.
The different versions.
Yeah, so then it opens my mind. Basically it's a dual POV, point of view, and written in first person. So it's basically about self-forgiveness, why don't do drugs. It not only ruins you, but it also troubles the ones that you love. And it's not worth it. And when you fall in love, you fall in love. There are no two ways about it. Love is something very important and drugs are not. The rest of it's in the book. You'll have to read it. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pranay. That's a very important message, but I'm very curious to see, that how Jace has a sibling Pearl who encourages him to travel to Europe. Because I think most of us, at least if I were to speak for myself, have siblings who will, should take away my ticket also and probably go somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, Abhika, see, the lead protagonist in my book is this 8-year-old child, 7-8-year-old child, Roshni. But I would not call her the lead protagonist. See, it's a journey. My story is a journey spanning 4 generations, almost 75 years, across 1,000-odd kilometers. The dream that the patriarch of the family, he saw, Lalan is the patriarch, and he is in some part of East India. And he sees a dream for his own. He is more like a bonded laborer, working for his Zabidar, tilling someone else's farms, lands. And he sees a dream for his own child. And then the successive generations, each of them see dreams for their next generations. So it is a culmination of that dream of each generation that is represented by Roshni. In fact, this is, I intend to write a 3-book series around these street performers. Initially I called them the street performers. So these are the 3 little children, siblings. The eldest is a son, Pradeep, then Deepa. Pradeep is interested, he plays a musical instrument. Deepa loves to dance and act. And Roshni loves to walk tightrope walk, trapeze. And so this book I carried for Roshni. The subsequent books in this series would be about Deepa and her journey, and then Pradeep and his journey. Pradeep, in fact, incidentally falls into the trap of drugs also. And so towards the end, he says that no, he will come back. He will give up this habit and he will come back stronger. Deepa is trying to make entries into the acting fields and having tasted some initial success. So that is the story. And as Pranay said, yes, there were times when I had writer's block, so I did not write what I did separate point of view. I just, those days I would just sit in front of my laptop, staring blankly, and maybe next day again write a few chapters, or maybe one chapter, scene by scene. I knew where I wanted to start, I knew where I wanted to end, and in between then I filled the colors. That's how I wrote my book. Anything more about the life of Roshni, etc. This is something which readers will have to read actually, otherwise it will be a spoiler. But it's a motivational book, I would say. It's a book about dreams, and yes, you can attain your dreams. That's what it is.
And I think, another common, I think what we also learned in the process when all of you were speaking is, how to deal with the writer's block, because I think that's something that everybody who has a story or, attempts to write it really struggles with, which is also somewhere when the muse comes into play. Because you feel sort of that it's not your own flesh and bones, that, not your own, your own mind and your own being that can give you that breakthrough, but you sort of need to push through it. So, I think, and I personally feel that, all of the books have been written with a lot of, there's a lot of personalization, there's a lot of, incidents drawn from very close to heart sort of storytelling. So I think, tell us a little more about your process. Like when you start the manuscript, what is your process like?
The process was all set in my mind, and whenever we think about a new book, a new plot, we have to find a practical thing. According to me, the practical things are more important, more effective. When we write anything which is practical, that is more effective. The readers can connect more and more. And the writer's block, if a writer gets in the writer's block, according to me, he should read more and more books. As much as we read the sword, we will write. So we must read and read to overcome the writer's block.
Full tip, Devendra. Pranay, I know that it's closely, I think traveling has been your muse, largely. And the pandemic. Yeah.
Pandemic and traveling.
And tell me a bit about the process. Was it more like when you were traveling, around Europe? Were you constantly making notes about things you were seeing, about places you were going to, or was it something that you decided later that probably this could make an interesting story? Let me go down the memory lane.
Actually, when I normally keep a diary, so I just write down the details of wherever I go. I never thought I'd write it down. And the thing is, I came back from Europe in 2010. After that, I was in a small town called Raibach doing social service. So this COVID actually it took me back to that time. And then when I opened up the diary, all the memories started flooding. And then there was certain data in my diary that I had noted down, things that I had seen. And when I googled to confirm, like the foot traffic at that particular railway station was 8,000 people per hour. But when you Google it, it's not the same. So I stopped relying on Google, I just went to my diary. And according to whatever is in my diary, those facts I've penned down in my book, whatever the tour guide Yasmin explains about what's happening, where it's happening. And basically, the diary is something that I'd written 10 years ago over a period of time. And COVID shook me up, took me back to the time. And what I've written is actually like, I've had a friend whose real friend died of an OD and then he got guilty. But the whole story is not about him also. It's about different people at different different times, different people at different times. So everything basically came together at that time. And that's pretty much it. And about the writer's block, I told you, yeah, I just wrote a parallel. I have the same, I have a different ending and a different, different story. It's more about architecture than about the tourist sites. So it's like a parallel storyline. I still have it. But I thought this one would be better to publish. So I sent this as a manuscript. But I have that one line too. So that was something that got me off the writer's block. That's it.
I think thanks Pranay for actually weaving this particular story together, because I think for young adults that's a great read. And Sanjay sir, we might be a little bit short on time, but
Yeah.
we would love to hear.
When you talk of the process, my first two books, I would say I was a pretty indisciplined writer. It was not a structured writing in that sense. For the gymnast, I knew what I wanted, what was going to be my opening chapter, and I knew what was going to be my closing chapter. And then as I moved along the story, I got into the skin of, under the skin of each and every character, and tried to think of the ways that that character would react or would behave. But now I have become slightly more disciplined. My third manuscript is a murder mystery, and the fourth manuscript is again a socially relevant issue about adoption, which I am currently working on. So, I try to create a skeleton or a synopsis, and then fill up the flesh and bone in that. So, and I feel as a process now I have become more structured, as more disciplined. I try to write at least 4 hours every day. It may be just 400, 500 words, but I try to do that. So that's, writing has become more structured. As a disciplined way of writing, I'm getting into that.
I think you should start some, TED Talk series on writing to just inspire all of us to write 4 hours, because it's quite a battle. Do we have time for audience questions or? Okay. So we may not have that much of time, but our speakers can take 2 or 3 questions if. I would pass on the mic.
So, Sanjay sir, you just spoke about having that much of discipline. So, what do you think? Does discipline make writing better?
See, discipline makes anything that you do better. And when you are doing something else professionally, then also you need a certain discipline, a certain structure in your life. So I would say yes, but no, that is not the only thing for writing. Actually,
What about the flow? Does flow happen with discipline? Because you're sitting to write, and you're like, I will write something. So does the flow happen always?
not always. There are writer's block, so you have to keep thinking about it. But you have to be an avid reader, which I am. So you have to read a lot, and that also gives you ideas. And you have to be very observant of events around you.
I completely agree to that. Yeah. Thank you.
I think good afternoon everyone, because this is my first time I am to be here in such a stage. And my question, my question is to you, sir. Being an author, because I am an author of the Indigo publication house, so my title is on dowry. So, do you believe that author should write a real contents on his book?
See, there would hardly be an author who can claim that his story or her story is totally fictional. Because every author would derive inspirations from the incidents, events and people around him or her. And so, I think what you are saying, since your book is on dowry, this is a very socially relevant subject.
Exactly. Sorry to interrupt you. I decided to put my stories on this book because during the childhood I have heard some real contents.
Yeah.
Whatever happened in my village, I think at that time I wasn't aware of
Right.
these things, So I decided to put, because a lot of people believes in the fake money. Because I think
I'm sorry to interrupt. We may not have time for a question within a
Okay.
question.
So we can interact after the event. I have about another half an hour event now.
Okay.
So after that I am free, so we can talk.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much everyone for joining us, and thank you to Pranay, Devendra and Chandra sir for answering the questions so honestly. I hope that all of you, keep finding the muse one way or another, because stories are everywhere. And yeah, enjoy the book fair. The secret bookshop stall is on the first floor, stall number 92, hall 4. So yeah, I pick up a lot of books. So thank you so much.